Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming and listening to what I've got to say. Some big words from Dale there, true visionary and all that. Well, I don't truly consider myself to be one. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about our organisation. This is not a sales pitch, but I do need to put into context what we've done, a little bit about who we are and why we did it. So just bear with me on that. Dale has articulated quite succinctly as to what service excellence really means and how, as an organisation, one needs to embrace that, I think, as a differentiator in our modern world today. And our organisation has been on a journey which started just over 18 months ago, and by no means are we anywhere finished on this journey. We've only just started it. So what I'm about to share with you is just the beginning. So let's start, and obviously, thank you.
Oh, there you go.
This is the title of the presentation, is Connecting Employees to a Service Culture. And really from our point of view, it was our journey towards true service excellence. And I'll tell you why I thought about service excellence as a differentiator for the organisation. I just wanted to point out, this is our statement that we came up with as being the meaning of service excellence. It was excellence making a difference. And we came up with this logo with the help of Bridge being the heart, because we're a hospital and we look after ourselves, we look after human beings, and that's at the heart of everything we do. And obviously the hand there is to show the support that the organisation gives to everybody who comes through our doors. Just to put into context for you, because I think it really is important, and this is where I started to come from, is our organisation is 158 years old. And that might not seem a lot to anybody, but it's pretty unique for us, simply because A, we're a charitable organisation, and we've been a charity since we were founded 158 years ago. And secondly, we have a hospice as part of our hospital, and that is very different. It's not a separate hospice, it doesn't belong to anybody else, it belongs to us. There's not many hospitals within the UK and anywhere else really I know that have a hospice as part of them. And the third unique part about us is we have a church at the heart of our hospital. And again, I know of only one other hospital in the UK, and that's in Cork, that has a chapel inside it. So we're pretty unique in those three areas. And that's why a bit of background will help. This is, our life began in Great Ormond Street 158 years ago in two houses, 46 and 47. And the hospital flourished there for a number of years until such time as Great Ormond Street themselves wanted additional space. And the hospital was really forced to look for alternative premises. We ended up in St. John's Wood. I don't know why, an association with St. John's Wood, but that's where we relocated to. But a couple of years, about 5 or 6 years after the hospital started, one of its founders, or founding members I should say, decided that they should build a church, because we're a Catholic hospital, and we were founded by the Sisters of Mercy, to build a church on the site of the hospital. And this is it over here in Great Ormond Street. And they built that church, and when they decided that they needed to move to St. John's Wood, they applied to the Vatican to move the church as the first part of the hospital. And in 1900, they moved to St. John's Wood, and this is a view of the hospital from what's called Circus Road, which is either back or front, depending on how you want to look at it. And there is the church. That picture there is exactly there. They moved it brick by brick. And if you think about the innovation of why they did that, it's quite amazing. And it's a listed building today, and it's fantastic. And it really brings a different persona to the whole hospital. So from my point of view, when I took over as a chief executive, I was quite daunted by this prospect of looking after an organisation that was 158 years old and continuing to ensure that this organisation survived for another 158 years. And I realised I'm really just a custodian. I'm just handing it over to the next generation that comes after me. And that started me to think is, how have they survived for 158 years? They set out life to as a hospital for the incurables, is what we called them in those days. And it was all funded by voluntary donations. And it survived that through many, many years. And the nursing was provided by nuns, Sisters of Mercy, which was an order from Bermondsey. And it survived from voluntary donations until a period in time where life became quite complicated and they had to seek fee-paid customers to help continue the hospital. And that's really where the organisation started to move slightly apart from where it started. And just to show you, I mean, we were a hospital that looked after servicemen in the First World War. And the motto in those days was to look after the sick and the dying, and it is still our motto today. And yet, if you look at this picture on the right, it's completely different. We are the home now to the UK athletics team who come to our hospital for treatment and so on. So we've moved a long, long way. And so when I started to think about what is it that makes us different, why do people want to come to us, I realised that it's actually our name. The name, the Hospital St John and St Elizabeth, means something to a lot of people. It's got an identity, it's got a brand. But that's just it. People know that if you come to our hospital, you will get good quality care. And so what? Everybody else says the same thing. And if you look at us, we said we are a truly unique organisation. We have a hospice, we have all the services that you would expect to find in a modern hospital. But why us? Why would you come to us? And we looked around and I thought to myself, this is us in central London, you can't see the map too well, but these are all the hospitals that surround us in a very small radius. They're not all on that map because some of them are a little bit smaller, but if you just look at the logos, these are the hospitals that surround, and we're all together in a very centralised pool. There's some very powerful names out there, especially the London, the Wellington, Princess Grace, the Lister, the Portland, etc. They're all part of ACA, a fantastic brand that provide excellent care. What do all these hospitals say? They say the same things. These are quotes from the hospitals in terms of their literature. This is what started to really get me thinking. Award-winning healthcare, award-winning quality, world-class expertise. Everything is the same. So why would you go to one hospital over the other? And it suddenly dawned on me once with my wife. I'm not a big TV watcher at all. I like sport. I'm not really into watching much else. And it came, I don't know if any of you have ever seen this program. I think it was on BBC Two. It's called Inside Claridge's. Now I'm sure that if everybody sitting in this room, if you said to the word Claridge's, what does it mean to you? It means 5-star. It means luxury. Everybody knows Claridge's. I think anywhere in the world, if you talk to somebody in reality who travels, they'll know the name Claridge's. And I started to, my wife said, I think you'll find this interesting. And I started to watch this program. And I was astounded by what Claridge's did. And this comment at the bottom really is what I thought is fascinating. There is a sense that nothing can go truly wrong with Claridge's. And that's when the penny dropped. It was their attention to detail. It was about doing everything they possibly could to make their customers happy and satisfied and willing to come back and come back and come back. Because whenever the customer wanted, they tried their very, very best to do. In that program, there's, I think it was an artist from Japan who would come back to Claridge's each year. And Claridge's have bathrooms with bath in it, and some of them have showers. But this artist insisted that they have a spa bath. And every single year they dismantled the bathroom and they put a spa bath inside that room just for this Japanese artist who stayed there for a couple of weeks. And at the end of the stay, they dismantled the spa bath and they put it back to what it was. I thought, isn't that amazing? Why do they do that? And they do that because they value that customer and they value the fact that that customer can tell everybody else about what differentiates Claridge's from other hotels. And as Dale said it, I don't think it's that visionary, but I suddenly thought to myself, that's what it is that we need to do. We need to differentiate the fact that everybody provides award-winning healthcare. It's all quality. We know that we're good at what we do. We have top-class consultants that come to us. They go to other hospitals too, so that's why everybody can say the same thing. So we know we are good at that. But what we don't know is if we're truly providing what we would like to provide as a 5-star service. We don't know that. And that's where I thought this was an amazing penny drop for me. And just a little snippet of, because you can't get much out of the BBC on the footage, but it was just something like this. This is just to give you an idea of what they would do at Claridge's.
The Emperor, and Empress of Japan.
They were one of only two people who were actually present at the original coronation. So it's actually quite significant, the visit.
No. Stop.
Mr. Martin's written specific venue for
So the idea was that we obviously meet him outside of the main door, it's obviously both of them, and then I walk them in, and right now the plan is to use the lift, okay? And if they come out of the lift, I would suggest that we stand on top of the staircase, but if they don't use the lift, that we maybe line up here on the stairs. Because how many people do we also have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if they take the lift, we are too many people. Can we do one per step, or is it too close? But then you can't bow. Then we need to half the group. Do we want to do a boy, girl, or? Should be height, okay. So if Oliver, then a little gap, Martin, Sally, Carl. The plan has to be very, very straightforward, yeah? Let's hope he uses the staircase. If he doesn't, the first 8 people.
There you go. So that's really what the program was all about. And I thought to myself, right, as a hospital providing healthcare to patients, we're actually no different to a hotel. Because people coming into hospital are going to be meted, greeted, booked in, they're going into a room, they're going to get treatment, they're going to get food, their room's going to be cleaned, and then they're going to be discharged at some point, and they're going to be safe to go home, and people are going to say thank you for coming, hope you are all well, etc. We don't really want to see you again because we hope you're not sick. So in reality we are a hotel. It's just that we don't provide some of the services a hotel does. And so we looked at this, and I went to my team and I said, guys, if we're going to be different and we're going to stand out above the crowd of all those hospitals I mentioned, then we've got to have a differentiator. And our differentiator's got to be service, customer service, because people are paying a lot of money to come to our hospital, and therefore they're going to expect the very best. And not only the very best in care from a nursing point of view, but the very best from the first time they park their car and walk through that front door to the time they leave, and they have an interaction with a raft of people. And so that's where the idea of service excellence and excellence making the difference was born. It was about putting service excellence at the very top of our agenda and looking at it as a consistent theme throughout the hospital. And as Dale alluded to, it comes back to your staff. And it comes back to their attitude and their behaviours. And so we had a good hard look at ourselves. And as I said, how do we stand out in the London healthcare market? Are we truly, or were we truly offering 5 stars we thought we were? And what are our core values and our unique selling points? And we looked at all of those things and we felt, no, we're not truly offering 5-star service. Yes, we do want to stand out in front of the crowd. We want people to go, I'm going to go to that hospital because I know that their attention to detail is fantastic, they consistently offer the right service, and they're a friendly, happy place to be. And they're a charity. And they have a hospice that they support. So all our profits go back into the hospital to support, obviously, the hospital and our hospice. And people like that idea because they know that their money is going to a good cause. So we had all of those ingredients. And so everybody agreed, that service excellence, customer service was a differentiator that was worth looking into and taking that next step, so that we protected the 158 years that we had, and we made sure that we were going to move on for 158 more years. And the soul searching began for the right partner. And I'm not an expert in any of these, but I must say, and I honestly can't remember how Dale came into our lives in terms of getting to know about our program and just looking for a partner. But I will say, and not because Dale invited me to talk here, I've told him numerous times, from the first time he walked into my office, and he sat down and he said, right, what is it you're after? And I told him, he got it. And I sat there and I was like, wow, this guy, and it was only Dale, he's saying, I've got this organisation, I'm Bridge, with all this, we can do it for you. This guy can do it for us. I knew that Dale would be the right person to help us on this journey. And so we partnered with Bridge on this service excellence journey, which, to be honest, at the beginning I didn't quite know A, how we were going to do it, and B, how the staff would buy into it, and see where it was actually going to get us. And that was pretty scary. I had to convince my management team that this was the right thing to do. Of course, you get some that buy into it and some that don't. And obviously, I wanted them to take on board that Dale was the right organisation to partner with. Obviously, there were a lot of challenges. We've spoken about leadership, so I'm not going to go through that again. But we had to create a program that would inspire people. We didn't want it to be a training program. We wanted people to take on board that this was fun, it was innovative, and it would actually help them, not only in their professional lives, but in their personal lives as well. And obviously we had to embed it in a culture that was very rich, 158 years of the sameness coming through, and that very vast set of skills that we have in the organisation. It was going to be hard to embed a slightly different way, taking on a new slant to the organisation. And of course there's always the resistors to change, as we know, in the organisation, and how we were going to overcome that. And obviously the long-term mindset to service excellence. This probably bothered me the most. And I'll tell you why it bothered me the most. Is because we have a slight problem in a hospital. We have a hospital which is a fee-paying hospital, and we have a hospice which is free of charge. And yet we have nurses on both sides. Nurses in the hospice are specifically providing care to palliative care patients. They have their skill set, whereas nurses on the ward are providing nursing to patients who are actually paying for that service. They don't quite easily cross over. And to actually go to somebody who works in a hospice, who are looking after people who may be terminally ill, who may be there for symptom control, it's quite difficult to tell them that we want to focus on service excellence, because as far as they're concerned, they're providing the very best they can to somebody who desperately needs that, possibly at the end of their life. And so the concept to them of service excellence was, I don't get it, I'm already doing that. Whereas in the hospital as a fee paid, slightly different, because they could quite understand the consistency, the attitude, the behaviour. It's a bit like the hotel, where somebody's paying for this. So therefore we've got to be good at what we do. And I knew that that was going to be our biggest challenge. I just wanted to share this little bit with you, and this is really where Dale came to about behaviours and attitude. And I'm sure you might have heard of Champneys, but if you read that little statement, you use the 5-star language, Champnify it a little bit. And that's what we looked at, that's not what we are. We're not Champnifying anything. We are truly looking at what is the professional side of service excellence, what is the behaviour and the attitude of staff to deliver that. Because we all know that if you go and you pay for service in a quality that you believe is a quality place, and you get that type of reaction, you're thinking, why am I paying all this money when I'm just being Champnified? I'm not running them down, because they've changed now. That's how they started. What we decided with Bridge was to develop this 5-modular approach. It wasn't a training program, as I said. This was about taking staff through a journey about yourself, about understanding your beliefs, how you behave, what your character, your personality, and how that affects the delivery of service or the role that you play in an organisation. And we came up with all these posters, which these are all of our staff in various parts of the hospital. You can't obviously read this, but it's about your daily actions have a huge impact on our patients' experience. Make each one of them count, little statements, and that's how we started. How do we get them to start thinking about it? How do we get them to buy into? We're going to go through a program. It's going to be fun, it's going to be quite intense, and it's mandatory, which is the hard part. This is not a choice. It's not whether you want to come or not. You are going to come. And so we started putting up posters and engaging with staff as to, all right, we're going to go through a program of service excellence and what it really was about. And I delivered some messages before we started, which was that we have a Christmas lunch for our staff, where all the staff come through our restaurant and they have a free lunch, which is quite a task for, we've got about 500 staff, so a big task for the catering team. And I thought that's a great way to capture all of our staff. Because if I invite them to something like this, then some come, some don't. But at a lunch, I got them. And all I did was a small little presentation at the beginning, a little bit about how the year had gone and what we were going to do in the next year and the program. Because I knew I had all of them there in the room and they would listen before they got their lunch, which included wine. So they listened, they wanted to be there. And that's how we started getting the program. This is what we're going to do, guys. This is what it's about. It's about looking into us as human beings, about our behaviors, our attitudes, and how we're going to be consistent, because we want to stand out from the crowd. In order to be successful for another 158 years, we've got to have a differentiator. Service excellence is it. We've continued with modules. We decided we took 8 modules. We did 5 in 2013, and we have got 3 this year. We have completed 2, and we have our last module in October. And that will be, it's not the end of the journey, but it's the end of the initial program that we put together. And these were just posters. We have 5 values, which you'll see in a short while. Excellence, innovation, compassion are just 3 of them. And we created these posters, and some of them have pictures of our staff, and some are, as you'll see, Dale's website with these little pictures of different things which help get people to think. Innovation, what is innovation? We had this, continuously improving our ways of working. That's our statement about our value. Same with compassion, treating others with kindness and understanding. Small little snippets. Those are our values, because these are them. We created all these posters, and we also had this thing called Magic Moments, which I'll come to. So we made staff aware that we were actually going to take them through a journey. And how did we start this journey? There were 5 modules. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. But one of the things we thought about, how do we engage staff? How are they going to actually want to come to this? And we decided to invite them via a postcard. So that's the front of the postcard. On the back it's got a pretend stamp, and it had their name with a little sticker. And it told them what time they were coming, what date and time they were coming to this module 1. And that was how we got, every staff member got one of these postcards as an invitation. And this was the very first one, Introduction to Module 1 Magic Moments. And it really was, there's a couple of things about what are our values of the organisation, and how do we live and breathe those, and our attitudes to them, and our attitudes to people. And these are things that people can actually understand, because we all have them. We all have values. We all have attitude. We all have behaviours. And then we took them through a journey about how do we recognise in each of us when you do something good. And it's just a little thing. I remember Dale used an example of coming through the barriers at a tube station. Boy, if you don't swipe that card, you'll get somebody pushing you through the barriers. And how that's attitude and people's behaviour. Because everybody just wants to get through. But what is it that somebody will do that you turn around and say, you know what, that's really nice. And it doesn't have to be somebody you know, it can be anybody. And it was about recognising how we do actually deliver service excellence. We just don't know that we're doing it. And it was just to make people aware that yes, you do provide service excellence by lots of things you do. And so people needed to look at their colleagues from wherever it happened and identify, you know what, that was a magic moment. And I can give you an experience of my own. I go to the restaurant now and then to get some lunch, and I normally just get a sandwich. And I'm a bit of a one of these, I don't know what you call, my wife hates it because I kind of like the same things, so it's boring in that sense. And the chef who makes sandwiches, because you go up and you're asking what ingredients you want, I often, if I'm going there, then somebody will stop me and start talking to me, and I kind of lose my place in the queue. And this happened to me on one day, and about 2 or 3 people spoke to me, and I kept getting into the queue, then got out. And by the time I got to him, he had already made the sandwich. He decided himself, and I know what he's going to ask for. And he said, yeah, I know you've been waiting for a while, and you've been talking to people here and here. And to me, that was a magic moment. I just stood there, and I didn't really know what to say to him. Because I thought, what? It just made me feel so good that he had taken the time, the effort, and the thought. How am I going to deliver service excellence to this? Not because I'm the chief executive, but he knew what I wanted. He understood what I was going to ask for. And so we took them through this first journey of recognizing the good in all of us and the good we do, both outwardly to customers, inwardly to colleagues, and how we treat each other, again, with that whole compassion, with kindness and respect. In Module 2, we started turning words into action. And this really focused on, we can all identify one of those 4 characters. Are we a performer, a connector, a thinker, or a driver? And I'm not going to go through it because I'm probably not as good as Dale. But when we took people to say, what are you? Are you a performer? Are you a driver? Are you a thinker? Are you a connector? People suddenly thought, actually, I think I'm that person. Or I'm a combination of both. And how then this then affects their interaction with people who come in to use our services. Who are you, and can you recognize who that other person is? Are they a performer? Are they a driver? Are they a connector? Are they a thinker? Because we know people coming into a hospital are generally quite anxious. They're not too sure what to expect. They don't quite know what the outcome's going to be, and they worry. So it is about getting staff to understand who they are, who do they identify with, and then starting to think about how that looks to somebody who's coming into the hospital to use our service. So again, it wasn't about taking them through a training program. It was about bringing it out in the open and identifying what we all know about ourselves, but probably don't want to recognize sometimes, or don't really think too hard about, and how that affects our ability to deliver our service. In Module 3, it was all about you at the heart of service excellence. And again, we took them through this whole aggression, assertive, passive. If you look at open and honest and considering other needs. And it was making staff, especially frontline staff, and generally a lot of us are all frontline, is recognizing that you might be aggressive. I'm not pointing at you particularly, but I can recognize you're aggressive. And I've got to step away from that, and I've got to actually get you into what's called the neutral zone. Because if I'm aggressive back to you, because that's the natural type of person I am, boy, are we going to have trouble. And it was getting staff to understand where they sat in that sort of, those boxes. This is only just parts of the module. Again, and taking them through real life situations to say, okay, this is it. I'm going to be an aggressive patient here, and I'm going to really go for you. How are you going to react? What are you going to do? And then it comes back to behavior, back to attitude, because a lot of people, you start being aggressive with them, they get attitude and they get aggressive back to you, and you both end up like that. So it is about saying to staff, we can't be like that. We've got to understand that customers could be any one of these, and where do you need to step to be able to look after that particular customer or patient, so that you're on the same wavelength and actually delivering the service that they expect. Bring them into your zone if they're aggressive. Or you get out of them, you really need to listen and understand and ask questions. What is it that they want from you? In the module 4, it was about, creating solutions through empathy. Again, it was, we need to be empathetic, so there's a difference between sympathy and empathy, and all that goes around your needs and wants. And again, staff can connect with that because we all understand, or we hopefully understand, what it is to be sympathetic and what it is to be empathetic, and what goes around that wheel, trust, partnership, values, etc. And in the last module of last year, which is about building that excellence culture, And we came back to the magic moments, and we decided to do these magic moment awards, so that when people nominated somebody for a magic moment, and it could be an individual or it could be a department, we then got an independent panel to go through them and come out with sort of first, second and third, both individuals and departments, and we went through this whole award ceremony, and boy, it's like people clamber to come now to our quarterly awards, because we do it on a quarter basis, because they want to have that. And obviously we get those that are first, second, third, both individuals and departments. To the department gets told, you potentially have a winner here, so could you make sure that some of you are in attendance, and obviously the person who could win, don't tell them, can you please make sure they're there. So there's a little bit of that, but then the rest of the organisation, and it's not everybody, obviously by a long way, because people are working, they want to come, they want to see who's been recognised and why. And this was about building that culture. I know that I'm delivering a quality service, and I want to see who's been recognised and why they've been recognised. And this was now starting to change the culture, because people started to think about how they were delivering the service, and people started to look out for each other to say, okay, what have you been doing? Well, I can see something that you're doing differently, I can learn from you. But also the interaction between departments has changed. People realise that in order to deliver healthcare, it is like a hotel. All the pieces fit together. You cannot provide quality nursing in the room if housekeeping haven't been there to set it up and clean it. If the food and the catering team hasn't been provided as the patient has ordered. If your estates team haven't ensured that the air conditioning or the heating or the gases work. And of course, with the administration sitting behind that in terms of putting the patient in the bed is incorrect as well. So we now, and we certainly are not there, but we now have that joined up approach where instead of blaming a department for not doing something, it's talking to them, communicating, saying we're all part of this together, guys. Without you, I can't deliver quality nursing care. It is our unique setting. And I need you all around to provide the same standard of care on a consistent basis. It was the consistency that really started to entire. And for people to understand that it is a culture change. Now, I'll just go back a little bit to our hospice, because it's been quite a very difficult journey, and I don't mind sharing it with you, and I'm sure they wouldn't be unhappy for me to share it with you, because they were, as Dale could quite point out, definitely, what would you call it, Dale?
Unique, very spirited-minded.
And just didn't see this.
Yeah.
But finally, after much working with them through those 5 modules, so that they actually understood it wasn't about saying you're not providing a great service, because you are, but at the same time that has to be consistent, because people coming through the hospice, it's not only the patient, which is slightly different to a fee-paying hospice, it's really about the patient. In the hospice, it's the patient and their families and their carers. There's a group. You're not dealing with one individual, you're dealing with a much broader range. And as we all know how difficult it is when you're in that situation, families are very, very much involved in where this is going to and what's going to happen. And there is a very strong push to have, as you may have been, for the government to want people to have the choice to be able to die in their own homes. Families are very focused on that because they know that that's really where people would prefer to die in their own home, and they know they're comfortable. So there's a lot of interaction with a lot of different people, and they suddenly started to realise that looking at some of the modules and that who they are, performer, thinker, driver, the aggressiveness, etc., the passive, all of those things started to make them realise that they are also delivering service to people other than patients. And the way they behave and interact doesn't mean that somebody won't come back because it is for free. They will say, that's a fantastic place to go. If you look at some of our videos now on patients who have come through the hospice because we use them, patients like, they'll tell you it's about love, it's about happiness, and it's about care. And that comes through what we believe is this whole culture where we say, you've got to deliver the highest standard of service all the time. We show it all day long, so it's on a consistent basis. And it's not about being Mr. Smarty Pants, it's about doing it in a way that we as humans want to be treated. Recognizing that if you behave in a certain way, then expect to be, if someone behaves like that to you, then don't argue about it. But if you want to be treated in a very different way, and you go and you do that to other people, then you can expect. That's right, that's how you want to be. We all want to be looked after. We all want good service. And so the hospice staff have started, by no means are we finished on that, have started to get that they are part of the same, of the whole. I don't like to say they're another department, but they really are just another department within a whole organisation. I'll just go back. The whole program was based on our values of compassion, excellence, responsibility, innovation and charity. And it was about ensuring employees connected service excellence to these and making sure these values are alive in the organisation on a day-to-day basis. All we say to staff is just take one value. If you take one value and you adopt it as part of service excellence and you live that value every day to your very, very best, we will succeed. We will stand out from the crowd. We will be different. And excellence makes a difference. And people will want to come to our hospital because of who we are. Dale touched on loyalty and a little bit on the hospice side, saying, well, are we moving away from the care for the sick and the dying to a much more commercial organisation? The answer is yes, I could see that in the beginning. Did they feel disloyal to that? Going to a different loyalty? And no, I think we've got it right now. I think we have a good blend of staff who understand how the values underpin everything we do. But at the same time, if you don't deliver service at a consistent level with the right attitude, the right behaviours, it can go down as fast as it came up. And I don't think that I'm a visionary in that sense. But
Well, I do.
I suppose connecting hotels and healthcare, a lot of people think, what? Where do you get that from? I go back to Claridge's. If you ever get a chance to watch that program, it is absolutely fascinating what we do. And that's my vision of our hospital. I want people to be proud to be working for us, to be part of who we are, to be proud to wear that uniform, and to behave in a way that means people will say, that's the place to go, because not only do you get quality health care and the outcome is good, but the whole experience is one of Claridge's. It's going to a hotel. And it's not the concept of there's a fancy room with bubble bath. No, that's not what I'm getting at. Of course the rooms have got to be of a standard, but it's just our attention to detail. And as again saying the consistency. Just a little bit, as I said, that's our restaurant at the very left there. We generally get a lot. We probably get close on 100 people in there on our quarterly awards. And any given day we probably have about 150 staff on site. So it's a good number that come through. And you can see a lot of happy people. I mean, people get recognised. And I had one of the theatre staff. He's not there. This is our theatre team. He's not there. When he got the award, he was so excited. He got up and he shook my hand and he hugged me. And he turned around without me saying anything. And I was saying, please have a word. He decided to tell everybody how he felt. And I thought that was marvellous. We just left him. And he stood up, then he did even worse than Dale. He spoke for about 5 minutes. He was so proud. And he said, I come to work every day. I just want to do my best. And I want people to know that I really care about them. And that was marvellous. And he could recognise it. And he was just absolutely over the moon. And that to me was making the difference. It made a difference to him. He's now completely engaged in this program. He gets it. And so do many of the other staff get it. Just some of the quotes from the nominations. I don't expect to read them for you, but these are just what people are saying about other members of staff in the department. So it just shows, that's all we ask. Just put something like that up. Nominate. You don't have to say who you are. So we often don't know who's nominated, but we know who they nominated in the department. We did this for we're going into our third year now of the end, our second year of end of the year awards. That was amazing. I mean, these are our porters here, and they feel that no one gives two hoots about what they do because they just do what they're told to do. But without them, we couldn't provide services. We couldn't provide the service. And again, absolutely overjoyed. This is in the States, a guy who won the award because he took it upon himself when he was asked to repair blinds in a lot of our offices, that he looked at me and said, well, actually, we're probably going to need to replace them. Sorry, not him, someone else, we're going to have to replace them. He went and had a look, and he took his time, and he actually went around, and he got bits and pieces from all over the hospital, and actually repaired them. He saved us a lot of money. He did that of his own bat. And he said, I did that, A, to save money, and because I knew I could do it. I can make a difference to you. I can save you some money. And I can still make it look good. And it started to work. What is the future? As Dale said, this is a program that's ongoing. We've really got to think about now where to. And Dale and I spoke a little bit earlier. It's about belief. We've got to get staff to really continue to believe in this. We can't end this journey because we've only just started it. And I know that it's starting to make a difference. I can see that in staff. I can see that they actually get it. And so the investment that we've put in, which is significant, and staff that actually really see that investment because they're not paying for it, they know they're going through all this, and they don't know what goes behind it. There's an investment in there because it's helping you in your personal life. It's not only about what you do at work. And those other areas in terms of continued innovation about what can we do to be there, to stand out above the crowd, and to make sure that service excellence remains at the top of our agenda. And so belief is probably the next one, is each of the staff believe in Privy. They have something to hold on to. And that will be the next step of our journey through service excellence. These are just some snippets from patients and others that write through to us about what they've had. And we're starting to see a lot of this. And some of the words that we like, compassion, so we know it's starting to come through. Before we would get a lot of compliments about the nursing staff and that work were fantastic, this area were fantastic. Now we're getting, please, your parking attendant named so-and-so, you've got to give him, whatever, because he was absolutely amazing. We're very fortunate as a hospital to have, give or take, about 20 parking bays for patients in St John's Wood, which most central London hospitals don't have. But boy, does it create a problem, because if it's full and people know you've got a problem, they get uptight. And these guys really work very hard to help people, and so we're starting to see compliments from patients on different aspects of our service, and that tells me we're starting to get things right. People don't love to moan about food. We're getting compliments on the way our staff are delivering food, the way they interact, the housekeeping team, the estates team, the porters, the concierge. They love him. And I got that from Claridge's, because if you look at Claridge's, this guy standing out there, he's been there for donkey's years. He knows everybody. They know him by name. He talks to, the Emperor of Japan or whatever his name is. He calls him by his name because he's known this guy for all these years. And I thought, that's what we need. We need a concierge. He needs to be looking, he looks like a concierge. And he used to be an ambulance driver. And was about to retire. And I said, Joe, do you really want to retire? He said, no, not really. It's not safe for me to drive our ambulance. I said, I've got a job for you. Do you think you could do it? Well, you go, come into a hospital. I don't say that lightly. Come and see this guy. He's the proudest guy to be at that front door and greet and meet people. Everybody that comes to see me from a business perspective is, who's that chap? He's marvelous. How long have you had him as a concierge? I don't know other hospitals. They may have a concierge. I visit them from time to time. I don't get that impression. But there you go. That to me was about service excellence, because people walk into hospital, they don't know where they're going, they're lost. And he helps them. And the other thing, just the last little thing I wanted to share with you, which is talking about concierge. We have two entrances in our hospital because we're a single site entity that covers two roads. Grove End Road, which is where St John's Wood Tube Station is, and Circus Road on the other side. And on the Grove End Road side where the tube station is, we've got two American schools, big schools, amongst a couple of other little primary schools further down the road. And so we have kids, sometimes on their own, mostly on their own, and or with parents that come through one side of the hospital in Circus Road. They walk right through, because you can, there's nothing to stop. Right through the hospital and on the way back home. And we have a coffee shop at the front, and the parents often stop and have coffee and so on. And the number of mums and dads who will see me walking around, they see my badge on the chief executive, stop me and say, you know what, this is a great place. This doesn't feel like a hospital. It's got something about it. It feels different. And all your staff are so friendly and professional. And we're not even coming here for treatment. We're walking through, I hope you don't mind. We haven't had a problem. The kids don't cause us any problems whatsoever. All very well behaved. But that just, to me, was a difference about who we are. We're a welcoming institution. We're alive. We're not all closed and passes and this and that. I know there's risks. I take them on board. But we are a welcoming organisation to everybody who comes through those doors. And I say to our staff every day, is remember, people who come in through the hospital know who you are. Because you're in a uniform and you have a badge. You don't know who they are. You don't know if it's a mum or dad. You don't know if it's a customer, a patient. You don't know if it's someone coming for a corporate appointment. Or somebody coming to use our church, because the church is a local church. It's for the community in St. John's Wood. It's not closed. You can come in any time, and that is often the case. You walk past or into that chapel, and there will be people in there, and they're just local parishioners coming in. So they don't know who you are coming through those doors. They do know who you are. So remember that. It's about your attitude to people. It's about how you behave. And it's about being proud of the organisation that is 158 years old. And all we're doing is carrying them and handing it over to the next generation. And boy, I don't want to be responsible for not being able to provide that. And I think the innovative way we started life with our church and the nuns for all those years who've been out of the hospital now for about 30 years. Because, as I said, we started off with that motto of to care for the sick and the dying, we do on a voluntary basis. And the nuns felt they had delivered their job and moved off. We've got to protect that. So we've got to move with the new, protect the old. And I think we're getting there. I think that staff understand that there's a uniqueness about us, that we've retained our identity and our culture, and we're building on it by providing a first-class service. So I hope I've given you some thoughts into where we are. I hope you've appreciated what I had to say. Maybe you agree, you don't agree, it doesn't really matter, but I've enjoyed speaking to you, and anytime you want to come to our hospital, please do. And you know who I am now, you can always look me up. Good or bad, I'm always happy to hear your views. So thank you very much for listening.